afternoon, everybody. This is Meenakshi Thakur from B.Ed Group of Colleges. I am serving here as an assistant professor for English, and today I am going to discuss about the basic principles of teaching a foreign language. So today we are going to discuss about the principles of language teaching. Basically, why we learn language teaching actually. Language teaching is a kind of an art, is a kind of a science which needs to be learned by each and every trainer who is going to train his students for a foreign language. In considering a foreign language, we have many notions, like foreign language is a kind of a difficult thing which cannot be easily trained. But if we keep in mind few principles, we can do it very easily. Like we have the very first principle, that the principle of purpose. It should be very clear with the person who we are going to teach and the person who is going to deliver the lesson. First of all, we need to understand the purpose of that skill. We in English, in foreign language, we need to establish the principle of purpose, because as such in human psychology, we do not opt for doing things which do not help us in any ways. So similarly, when we will be able to communicate to our students why English language is important, then they'll be able to do it very effectively. So what is the purpose of learning this language? For our commercial purposes, for social purposes, for in short every purpose, we are using this language to get linked with other people, to communicate, to share our views. Second thing is language teaching is an art. The second principle is to understand this thing, it is an art. When we are teaching something, we need to understand certain methods and technologies and terminologies very well. So in this language also, we have to understand this is a kind of an art which needs to be practiced with a genuine and appropriate methodology. Third thing is, it has to attain an emphasis on language skills. We have mainly four kinds of language skills. We have reading, writing, listening and speaking. Reading and writing, these are such skills which are called as passive skills. Why? Because we are reading which is already being written, we are listening which is already being established. But in writing and in speaking, we are performing something. So that is an active phase of a skill. So here we have to understand the emphasis on language skills. These four skills has to be mastered first by the trainer, and the trainer can very well establish the skills in their students. The fourth skill is the principle of active and passive vocabulary. Now what do I mean by active and passive vocabulary? See, active as such the word means is something which is an action, is in motion, and passive which is not in motion, not in action. In active vocabulary, as a linguist, I mean that my students which are frequently using such words and phrases, they are in their active memory. So those words and vocabulary are in active mode. And those words which are not being frequently used, they are called as passive vocabulary. So the students which are not using those words, or the words which are not being frequently used, they are rated in passive vocabulary scenario. So the emphasis has to be made for the active and the passive vocabulary. As a trainer, as a teacher, I have to teach my students, I have to let them understand what is the importance of active vocabulary. Passive vocabulary and active vocabulary plays both a vital role in building up a good vocabulary structure with the student. So that if I am introducing some new words in my class with my students, I have to bear this thing in my mind, that whatever I am bringing with me for my students as a new word, I have to make them very clear how and when I am using it. And I have to make them understand the practice, the drill for the specific word, so that we can build an ample amount of vocabulary, both in active and in passive forms. So the maximum proportion should be there for the active vocabulary. The last and but not the least is the phonetic principle. As a language trainer, I need to be very clear with this scientific technique of language teaching, that is what we call linguistics. Linguistics is the science of languages and phonetics is the technical part of it. Here we understand what and how the pronunciation of specific word is created. As a trainer, it is my utmost duty and responsibility to deliver something which is very correct. So as a trainer and a teacher, I need to pronounce each and every word in a very uniform and in a justified manner, because my students will be imitating what I'll be pronouncing in front of them. So what I have to do, I have to understand their mental skills, their background, so that I can build up with the help of their own way of learning the vocabulary which they need. In phonetic phonetics, we are prior to first of all clear our own basic skills and structures about the language speaking and the pronunciation, and it has to be made compulsory and mandatory with the trainers to use accurate and perfect pronunciation in their classrooms with good vocabulary. So these are the basic 5 principles which are to be considered when we are framing something regarding the language of teaching English language, right? So that's all for today's lecture. For further queries, I would like to mention that you can refer to gurukpo.com, and thanks for listening to me and hope you have been benefited by my lecture. Thank you, and thank you.